Today, we're going to dive into just one chapter of the Quran, Surah Ibrahim, and unpack how its ancient stories and metaphors are, believe it or not, incredibly relevant to our modern tech-filled lives. I mean, think about it. It's a huge question, right? It's something philosophers and thinkers have been wrestling with forever. How do you take something so personal, so internal, and make it, real? Something you can actually grasp? Well, a lot of the time, the best way is with a simple story. And that is exactly what this chapter does. It boils everything down to this powerful, easy to understand parable. But before we get to the story itself, we really need to understand the world it was first told to. Yes, so this revelation didn't just appear out of nowhere in a time of peace and quiet. Not at all. It was a message of pure hope, delivered to a community that was under immense pressure, a community right on the edge. We're talking about the late Meccan period. This was a really tough time. The early Muslim community was facing intense persecution. They were being hit with severe boycotts by the ruling Quraysh tribe. This was right before their big migration to Medina. So this context, it's everything. This message was meant to be a lifeline. And you see that purpose right away. In the very first verse, the whole point is laid out plain and simple. It's a guide to lead people out of the darkness of disbelief, of despair, and into the light of faith and real clarity. And to do this, to make that idea crystal clear, the surah gives us one of the most memorable parables in the entire Quran. It takes this big, abstract idea of faith and gives it roots, branches, and even fruit. The text basically asks us to just pause and consider this example. A good word is like a good tree, and a bad word, well, that's like a bad tree. This simple comparison is the key that unlocks the whole chapter. And the contrast it draws is, wow, it's night and day. On one side, you've got the good tree. Its roots are deep, its branches reach for the sky, and it's always producing good fruit. Then you have the bad tree. It's basically just sitting on the surface, ready to be knocked over with no stability at all. Okay, so here's what it all means. That good word represents Tawheed, the core belief in the oneness of God. The tree's deep roots, that's belief that is just unshakably fixed in your heart. The branches reaching for the sky, those are all your good deeds, your morals rising up. And the fruit, that's the best part. That's the constant positive impact a person of faith has, both on themselves and on everyone around them. Now, the surah gets its name from Prophet Ibrahim, or Abraham, as you might know him, and it deepens this whole idea by connecting it all back to a really powerful prayer he made centuries before. So in this prayer for Makkah, listen to what he asks for. It's not just for physical safety. He asks for spiritual protection. And he's very specific. He prays to be kept away from worshiping idols. Because idols represent the ultimate bad tree, a belief system with no real roots, just a distraction. And that very specific request to be protected from idols is, funny enough, the source of a huge, complex conversation that's been going on for centuries in the Islamic world, especially when it comes to visual art. And this is the question that brings it all into our lives today. What actually counts as an idol now? Is an educational statue an idol? What about a video game avatar or a 3D printed model? The whole debate really boils down to intent, to what it looks like, and what it's for. So historically, Muslim artists came up with this really elegant solution. It's called incomplete sculpture. Basically, they would intentionally leave parts of a figure out, like the face, so they weren't creating a perfect, lifelike replica that someone could mistake for an object of worship. It was their way of balancing art with theology. And this leads us to two really different ways of looking at it from scholars. Back in the 13th century, you had al-Qurtubi, who was very strict, very cautious. He wanted to do everything possible to prevent a return to idolatry, to protect those firm roots of faith. But then, fast forward to the 20th century, and you have Wahba-e-Zuhali. He had a more modern contextual view. He argued that if art produces beneficial fruit, like for education or preserving culture, and nobody intends to worship it, then it can be permissible. And this evolution in how people think about this stuff is so important when we start talking about 21st century technology. So get this. Today, some people see 3D miniature art as a modern version of that old, incomplete sculpture tradition. With digital tools, an artist has total control. They can choose not to make things hyperrealistic. This way, the art produces the fruit of education and storytelling without ever crossing the line into idolization. It's just absolutely fascinating, isn't it? Prophet Ibrahim's prayer, which is thousands of years old, is now part of the ethical conversation for artists using 3D printers and complex design software. It's a perfect case study in how timeless principles can stay relevant through huge technological change. And that brings us right back to where we started, that simple parable of the two trees. It's really an invitation for each of us to look at our own lives, at our beliefs, our actions, what we create, and to ask ourselves a pretty serious question. Are we cultivating a tree with deep, strong roots and good fruit, or one that's unstable, shallow, and ready to be uprooted? It's a question that is just as powerful today as it was 1,400 years ago.